Hello everyone, and this is episode 2 on how to get into UMTYMP. So today I wanted to talk about some basic pre-algebra concepts, some examples and solutions, and finally some tips and tricks. So before we go on to a pre-algebra introduction, I just want to note the schedule from earlier. So these two parts are both consisting of pre-algebra. So this isn't the only one because there's a lot of pre-algebra in the UMTYMP entrance exam. So yeah, let's get started. So these are the most common components that'll be on the exam. So equations such as solving for x or y or whatever variable. And then systems of equations. So you'll be asked to do substitution, elimination, 2 variable. For what I know, I didn't experience any 3 or 4 variables, so you wouldn't need to worry about that. Finally, some coordinate geometry. This only makes up like 2% of the exam. Well, I don't know, that's all I saw, but it's still important to know. So let's get started. This is our first example problem. So y is equal to 3x minus 7, and y is equal to 2x plus 8, and quantity A is x, and then quantity B is y over 2. So, in order to solve this problem, we have to solve for x and y because we can't really solve any of these without knowing the value. So, let's solve. So how do we solve it? We have to use a method called substitution. And for those that know systems of equations, you know that there's an alternative option, which is elimination. But this wouldn't work. Well, it wouldn't work well in this case because we know 2 values for y, so we can set them equal to each other, which is another way for substitution. So we can set 3x minus 7 equal to 2x plus 8, and now we can subtract 2x from both sides, add 7 to both sides, and we ultimately get x is equal to 15. So our quantity A is 15 because quantity is x, and in order to solve for y, we can just plug it into any of these equations. So that one as well. I was going to use 2x plus 8. So y is equal to 15 times 2 plus 8 is 38. So y is equal to 38. And if we go back over here, x is equal to 15, and y over 2 is 38 over 2 is equal to 19. So, moving on. This one looks kind of messy, but the idea is x is equal to 2y, and we're also given that x is a positive integer. So, our quantity A is 7x to the power of 2yx, and then our quantity B is 8x minus 18y. So, the best way to analyze this, or figure out the answer, is by taking each of these separately. So, 7x to the power of 2y times x. I said it in a way that would make it kind of obvious because we have a 2y, and we know that x is equal to 2y from this information, so we can pretty much just replace that. So this would just be 7x to the power of x times x, or 7x to the power of x squared. And you don't need I don't think you can simplify it further than this, but you don't need to either, even if you could. So next is 8x minus 18y. And once again, we do need to find this in terms of x because that's what we did here. And finding this in terms of y would be a real pain, so don't do it. So in order to convert this in terms of x, we have to go back to the fact that x is equal to 2y. So in terms of y, that would just be y is equal to x over 2. So since we have 18 over here, if you just let 18 be y, it's just 18 is equal to x. Oh, sorry, that's not how it works. But the idea is it just be 9. So yeah, that's the idea. But this is 8x minus 9x. And this is equal to negative x. And you can check over here if you want. So now we have to compare the two results. So 7x to the power of x squared and negative x. And in order to solve this, we can just substitute a bunch of values or do another approach, but I'll get to that after we do substitution. So remember that it has to be positive. I did mention that earlier, but oh, sorry, that's right there. Sorry. It has to be an integer. Sorry, okay, that's the thing I was gonna say. It has to be an integer, and it has to be positive at the same time. So 1. We're just gonna use 1. So for b, it's -1, and 7 to the power of 1. 7 times 1 to the power of 1 to the power of 2 is just equal to 7. So a is greater than b. A is the right answer. But what's the proof? That brings us to our other way of really doing it. It's not really a proof, but it's better than the first one. So since x is a positive integer, it can technically never ever be negative. It always has to be positive. This thing will always be positive, and this thing will always be negative, because unless x is a negative value, this will be positive, but it's not. It's always a positive integer, so this will always be negative. It will always be positive. So a is greater. Yeah, okay. So final problem. So we have quantity a is equal to 2x squared plus 7x minus 2 and x over 7 plus 9. We're not given any background information. That's the best information we can get. Usually if there's no background information, I'd say it's D, but just don't overuse it. So I'm just gonna substitute a bunch of values and just see which is greater than the other. And if we get two different results, like B for when I substitute for this one and A if I substitute for another number, I just say it's as a D. So if we put this into here, we get -2. And if we put 0 in as x over here, which is 9, so in that case B would be the right answer. So don't stop there, try more numbers, because whenever you're doing these substitution stuff, you always want to do more than 1. So if we put in 2 over here, we get 20. And if we put 2 over here, we get 2 over 7 plus 9. And we don't need to simplify that, and I don't want to simplify that. So let's just say that the answer is A. Well, the answer is A, but yeah, you can check if you want. 20 is greater than 2 over 7 plus 9. So since we're getting two different answers, B and A over here, our answer is D. So just as I said, there's not background information. It's like a confusingly hard problem. You can just deduce that it's D. But once again, I wouldn't count on it unless you're like really low on time, which brings me to another tip. Just put in D if you see like no background information. So usually there's like a box that'll have like all the background information. But if it has nothing and it looks super confusingly hard and complex and advanced, just put D. Help me a lot. And yeah. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.